What is up, humans of the cardboard? Welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today I am doing another little discussion talking about Therions. This is the new archetype that got revealed like 2 days ago. It's very hyped so far. I think it has a lot of potential. It's just a little bit clunky on how it works so far, but there's also a little bit of splashability here. So I do want to talk about where we could see some of these cards just kind of splashed into other archetypes and not even just really focusing on the archetype itself and what it does in its own confines, but more so how it's going to work with other stuff. So really cool. They all have the same kind of mechanic where if you have a Therion monster engrave or a monster of the same type of the Therion you're trying to use in hand, you can special summon them and then equip the monster you target from grave. So you have like a warrior guy, you've got aqua, you've got psychic, you've got plant, and you've got machine. So some pretty good generic types here, but unfortunately some of them don't have the most powerful effects when they're on the field or equipped. And so there's only a couple that really have great use. Ein can like pop a card, but if you're playing him as a splashable card, you're probably popping himself or maybe the field spell if you're playing it. And for warrior decks, I'm not sure entirely what that's doing for you 100%. So he's probably a skippable one, I think, for the time being, unless there's like a very specific synergy. Then you have Therion's Leaper. She's definitely one to keep an eye on. She's the aqua support. She has a really powerful effect where as a quick effect during your opponent's turn, you can target a Therion card in your spell and trap zone and one card your opponent controls and return them to the hand. The biggest downside of this card is that if this card just said target one Therion card you control, not specifically just in the spell and trap zone, that way it could bounce itself to bounce another monster and then it's in the hand again to summon again next turn, then you'd be cooking. But unfortunately, I don't think the spell and trap or the field spell counts as being face up in the spell and trap zone. I think that specifically counts as being in the field spell zone. Feel free to correct me in the comment section if that's not how the ruling works, but if it is, it means she's not able to like bounce the field spell. That's a crazy interaction, right? Because the field spell searches on activation, but then it makes this engine much more interesting because it means you could open the field spell, get to her, and then keep going and then have that bounce live. But if that's not, if the ruling works how I think it does, and that won't allow you to get the bounce live, I think she misses the mark generically. But if she doesn't, there's a couple things to note. Penguins are almost entirely an aqua archetype, so they very easily put aquas, and they have some support. They actually do some things. They're not great, but you know, it's there. You've got Ice Jade. This is the archetype that's really being fleshed out in the next core set, Battle of Chaos. They get like a legit Stratos type monster and some other decent cards as well, a decent trap card, which is really nice. So that's another archetype where this card would be an interesting splashable piece, as well as frogs. But the downside with frogs is you only play 8 monsters usually in a frog deck, and so her having, like, you easily putting an aqua in grave is kind of harder, but it is an archetype worth noting because they're all aquas and they can be decent at times. So yeah, I think she overall misses the mark, but just keep in mind for rulings how she goes, because having that free setup bounce is like nasty if it works that way. Just got to keep an eye on it. The psychic guy, unfortunately, he doesn't really give you much payoff. I mean, he just gives you destruction effect, destruction protection on your Therion monsters. Whatever, right? Then we get to the plant one. Now, this one is probably the second most interesting one. This one actually does have some use because while she's on the field, you can send one card from your hand or field to the graveyard. Any card from hand or field, which includes the card it equipped to itself to summon, which is just like so free, and you add a Therion spell or trap from deck to hand. So there's a couple of really good targets here that are particularly interesting to me. Obviously, the field spell is really spicy because the field spell could get you access to another one, right? And so like you summon her, you search the field spell, then you link her off, exceed her off, whatever, sync her off, get her in grave, and then whatever Therion you search off the field spell now has her as a Therion in grave to equip to make their effects live. So you could play the aqua one to get that bounce. You could play the machine one that we're going to look at in a sec that gets you an Omni Negate, and then you're actually, you know, cooking with gas. Now you do have to have other, you know, extendability just to get her off the field, but that shouldn't be too hard. This card doesn't take your normal summon. If you were summoning her anyway, it probably means you were already able to put at least another plant on the field. So very good. This one seems really good. The other card that might be worth noting is the trap card. This one, Therion's Cross, because it just says while you control a Therion monster, you can do one of these effects. It's either negate a monster or banish a monster that activates its effect. So really good. You get to pick there. Theoretically, you're not going to have the perpetual engine if you're just splashing this engine into a deck. So you're only picking one of these instead of both, but still just picking one of those is pretty good. Monster negate or monster banish is nothing to sneeze at for sure. So if you kind of needed her to be a piece of your end board, or you wanted her to just be the raw interruption, cool. Just grab the trap and get cooking. Otherwise, you might be playing a brick, but it gets you some decent payoff in the form of either the Aqua one above or this guy right here, Therion's King Regulus. He's probably the best one overall. He is machine, which means he's probably also the most splashable one out of all of them. I know there's a ton of warriors, but machine specifically just have like so many specific archetypes that are like, whoa. So anyway, he does the same thing as all the other ones, right? Summoning himself by equipping a machine or a Therion engrave. And when he's on the field, if your opponent activates any card or effect, you can send a Therion monster from your hand or field to the graveyard to negate that effect. That's just so good. I know he has to send himself, but an Omni Negate is an Omni Negate. And so if you're playing maybe a combo deck and you really want your ability to resolve very early in the combo, if you could just put a machine engrave, this guy's going to jump on the field as an Omni Negate. So now you've got your nib insurance, you've got your, impermanence insurance, whatever hand trap you're scared of from that point on, you have no reason to be, because this card handles it. And having the field spell also to search him out just makes it actually a pretty consistent package you can see. I also thought about this, and actually Planet Pathfinder becomes really interesting with this, because it means you could literally go normal Pathfinder tribute itself to search the field spell, then field spell for this guy, and now you've already got Pathfinder engrave because it tributed itself to search the field spell, and you just go ahead and set up that Omni Negate. It does take your normal summon that way, but it is something worth noting for sure. I think that's definitely something to keep in mind. But yeah. Very cool. Sets up the Omni Negate. Very cool. So the particular things, I didn't even mention this with the plant monster. There's a couple other plant archetypes that are obviously important to note. The first one being Sun Avalon. This is probably the best plant archetype we have access to at the moment. It has link 1, so you can very easily put a plant monster engrave to make the plant one live immediately. Very cool. You have the Reek archetype as well, tributes its own monsters off of like 1-card combos, so that you can just put a plant engrave really easily. Again, really nice. Predaplants, they just recently got support revealed, and it's actually pretty decent. We may see them as an actual splashable engine with the Sun Avalon and Rika stuff. We'll have to wait and see though, but they have some good starters as well. And the last one is Sylvan. They got the new link too, and also the plant one in this archetype. The most relevant thing for this deck is that it's actually a level 8, so it actually does work level wise with kind of setting up a rank 8 XZ plays, which is pretty cool. There, but that's the plant stuff. Moving to the machine stuff. This is the most important stuff we got to talk about here for Regulus. Is a couple things. First off is obviously Infinitrax. Right, like this card, you have ways to search like generic earth machines from deck to hand. Harvester doesn't do it, but I believe the normal summon for Machina, the Metal Cruncher, if you just revealed 3 Regulus, and you would have to play 3 Regulus, it would just immediately search you. It guarantees you a search for any earth machine in the game of Yu-Gi-Oh, I believe, which is just insane, being able to get him if the rest of your hand already like plays after that. This is so huge. I think one of the decks that's the most relevant for this package is Earth Machine, because it's a deck that's more resource oriented, not as much disruption oriented. You draw a bunch of cards and you're hoping to find some disruptions, but this gives you an actual in-engine like searchable way to get yourself to an actual interruption. It's 1 Omni Negate, so it's nothing crazy, but we'll take that. Like 100% we will take that. That actually gives I want to say there's actually going to be searchable combos to just set this up on top of potentially like the draw 2. So draw 2 plus an Omni Negate off of maybe 1-card combos. I don't even know yet. Definitely gonna need some labbing. That's pretty nuts. That's pretty nuts. So Machina, even pure Machina could be an interesting one as well. The deck loves to just put its monsters in grave. That's what a lot of its strategy is like predicated on doing. So just having him in there is like pretty cool. You just need to see any way to put a machine engrave. Works. Trains are a little bit less relevant as far as a pure variant goes, but you know, you play you play train cards in the Earth Machine deck anyway, so worth noting. But like going second, this package isn't specifically great. I mean, I guess it's fine. You put a big body on the board that also is a negate to help you play through things. So I guess in that facet, it's like a must negate, but not the craziest thing in the world. Appliancers. I thought appliancers were interesting as well, kind of in that same vein as Earth Machine. This is a deck that does not set up interruption like at all. They like don't have interruption. And so this gives them like, you know, like they have link 1, so they easily put a machine engrave. Boom, just plop an Omni-Negate on the field. Helps them actually play, helps them OTK a little bit easier. I know this is like sometimes a going second deck and you just plop a 2800 body on the board. Helps you push for game. Like, yeah, that could be something decent. ABC. ABC is cool. It's a little bit less good. It's a little bit more bricky than some of the other decks we've looked at here for machines, but it does have extra synergy in the fact that I believe the Union monsters will gain their effects like specific synergy while they're equipped to the Therion. I don't know if they can use their effects to summon themselves from that position, but I do believe if they're still like sent to the graveyard or he uses his negate and he goes to grave and of course, because of that, the monster equip also goes to grave, then I believe they'll still trigger to like B Buster Drake, get another search from deck, A add from grave, or C summon from hand, which is pretty cool. So some cool synergy there. And then of course the last one is Cyber Dragon. This is another one that's really cool. A lot of people love Cyber Dragon. The deck's always like kind of fringe rogue status and like a decent rogue deck. But this definitely helps them for sure. Even like the more control-y variants, this helps. And so the only specific synergy I can think of is I believe we will be able to equip Cyber Dragon hers. And so once our guy leaves the field, we will send hers to grave. And I think hers such as just whenever it's sent to grave. So that's pretty cool that you'll get a free resource off of hers. But yeah, other than that, it's just generically good. They have normal summonable Cyber Dragons that are very easy at just getting into the grave, whether you're contact fusing them off or just making like an Almirage type thing, like normal core, search and overflow, link for Almirage, use this guy, get an Omni-Negate, and kind of like keep going, which is pretty cool. I mean, you get some good setups there. But yeah, I think that's everything I wanted to cover for the most part. There are obviously other machine archetypes that are definitely worth mentioning if you are more of like a casual / fringe rogue player. But these were the ones that to me were like the most relevant. There might be some other ones that are interesting, but I don't know if he really is going to save those archetypes entirely. But other than that, there was like Roam Mages maybe for the plant one, and then there really aren't many Aqua archetypes. But like I said, depending on how this ruling works, like this card might not be worth playing anyway. But yeah, really cool stuff. I like the way this archetype seems. It seems good, resource intensive, but not broken necessarily. Maybe we'll see the machine guy be broken just because he is so splashable, and there are a lot of good machine decks anyway. But other than that, I think the archetype seems cool. I hope that it's like there's just some missing synergy to actually make this deck like work as more of a pure variant that like we just haven't seen yet, and we just need to see people mess around with it, because unfortunately the pure variant just seems like really bricky. But we'll obviously see with more testing. We'll see the OCG mess around with it, people from the TCG testing it early and all that stuff, and we will find out where people want to go with the deck. But that is going to do it for me here today, guys. Sorry if I rambled a little too much there. Let me know in the comment section down below if there's any other synergies, like cool decks that you might want to try and splash any of these guys in, because I'd be curious to hear your thoughts on that. But other than that, I'm finished up here. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Subscribe if you have not yet and you want to see more discussions like this in the future. See you in the next one. Peace.